Welcome to Fluxedo Junction. I'm Scott Kugler. Each episode we bring you the best music of all genres from throughout the world, and this week we have a special treat, a phone conversation with Jethro Tull guitarist Martin Barre, whose latest solo album, Back to Steel, is available through Garage Records. He'll be performing at the Bolton Center in Bayshore, New York on October 12th, so let's kick things off with the title track from Back to Steel here on Fluxedo Junction. We are actually excited because you're going to be playing here right around the corner from us on October 12th at the Bolton Center in Bayshore, which is a venue that I think you've been at before.
We did it last year, and it was a great place, but we really loved doing it, and I think that's the first thing we asked at the end of the show to the guys running it, says, please have us back, and they obviously said, no problem.
Yeah, it's a great room. I've seen quite a few people there. How is it for you on the road these days, promoting the new material? Obviously, at this point, your solo career has been in pretty full swing for quite some time. Your solo career on its own is longer than the careers of several bands that I can think of. And I know that it must be interesting and exciting for you to bring your current music out to an audience that may not have been exposed to it before. How are you finding the reaction from the audience?
The reaction is brilliant. You know, I couldn't ask more. I couldn't be happier with what's going on, and it sort of, it feeds me. It revitalizes me, and I feel like a teenager inside. I'm not on the outside, but I love playing music more than I've ever enjoyed it in my life, and I'm really sort of motivated to have a great show. I've got a great band behind me, and it's just exciting playing. It's sort of like generally like the old days, that sort of burst of that excitement that you get, and you're just looking forward to the next gig. It's a great place to be.
Can we actually talk about the current band for a few minutes? Tell us who you've been playing with.
Well, it's just my band, really, and I do other projects. I do a thing called Excalibur in Europe, and they'd love to come to the States, I know, but it's a big rock opera with an orchestra, guest appearances, some guys from Supertramp, Moira Brennan from Clannad, and it's sort of very eclectic. It's based on the story of King Arthur. It's a big grand rock opera. We play to sort of 20,000 people a night. It's great fun, and from that I meet some amazing musicians, and one of the guys doing it was a German heavy metal rock star called Eric Fish, and because we got on really well, I played flute on his record. I'm playing heavy metal flute. It's brilliant. It's just nice, It just opens another door, and I'm, traditionally I never say no to anything. If somebody says, "Can you play on my record?" Yeah. Who are you? I like to sort of open the field a bit and push myself a bit further.
Is that liberating for you in any way, having been locked into a specific classic rock formula for so many years as you were? It must be really nice to be able to express yourself in directions that you wouldn't necessarily have been able to go in previously. Now that you're operating under your own name and your own identity, and have been for a while, has that taken you down avenues that you've always wanted to go down and just never could before?
Yeah, you get into a situation that becomes normalized. I think that you could say that to most people on the planet, that your job might not suit you 100%, but you get used to it, you get comfortable with it, and it becomes your sort of day-to-day regime. And I love Tull. I love the audience. I have great respect for the music, and I've had a wonderful 43 years playing Jethro Tull. But, at the end of it, I was out on my own, and I realised how little guitar playing I've been doing in the last few years. So it really was a release. It was like a different job completely, and I really enjoy it. It's strange. I think I didn't realise how little I had to do and how much I like to do. And, I love arranging music, I love writing music, and I love playing the guitar. So I've got huge amounts of all of that, being out on my own.
Well, one of the things I admire the most about the way that you're conducting your solo career, and this is something that I've admired from other artists of your generation, I guess, as well. I did an interview with John Paul Jones a while back, and I went through the whole interview without ever asking him about Led Zeppelin, because I've listened to him be interviewed about Led Zeppelin a million times. I was way more interested in hearing about his film scores or his solo albums or the things he's produced or been involved with. And he's one of those artists, and there's quite a few out there who pushes the edge of what you would expect from him. I feel like you're doing the same thing. This music is not Jethro Tull music, and that's what I love about it. As much as I love Tull and what you did with that band, I'm very interested in hearing you go in new directions and try new things out that you just might not have been free enough to do in a situation where, people are expecting you to play the same 20 songs that they hear on classic rock radio all the time. It must be a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you mentioned John Paul Jones, because I think he's an incredible talent, and I think there's more of him in Led Zeppelin than most people realise, because he was writing so much of that music. He is a phenomenal musician, a music writer, and I guess that traditionally in the band, the singer gets the limelight. And I remember in Tull days that I used to get the odd interview and the odd magazine article, but essentially Ian was the figurehead and the spokesperson, and which is fine because he was great at doing that. But the sad thing is that in any band, everybody has something to say. Everybody has things that they do, and different projects, and they're as important as everybody else. So, and I'm like I'd like to sort of look beyond the surface to see what's going on in music with different musicians as well. I think it's sort of biased. The industry is biased towards the people who have sort of flamboyant personalities that probably sell magazines, but it's too obvious. I think it's always good to look beyond that.
Well, you actually just dovetailed nicely into the next topic I wanted to ask you about, which is navigating the music industry in its current state. And I'll preface this question by saying I've worked, aside from broadcasting, I've worked for record labels before. I always say I start working in the music industry or the record industry just in time to see it all sort of fall apart. It was like 1996 when I got started, and right around that time Napster and all those things started happening. So I got there early enough to watch the whole model change and completely turn over. And I wonder if you've been able to work that to your advantage, obviously with the prominence of the internet now and just the ability to market directly to your audience. It must take up a certain amount of hours of your day doing things that are more administrative rather than musical, dealing with all that. But is it worth it in the long run?
Well, it's hard work. I mean, me and my wife organise everything. So every tour we do, so like a typical 2-month tour in the States, is a month's work, solid, like every day, just booking flights, hotels, vans, cars, everything, and we do it ourselves. The good thing is we know what we're doing. I've done it before. I've travelled everywhere in the world. I know how to do it the best, the most comfortable, where to stay, where to avoid, and just how to make life easy and enjoyable, because being on the road is stressful, but I can avoid nearly all of that by experience, by default. And then certainly with the industries, as you say, has changed so radically, it's been turned up on its head. But I think that there's more good things about that than bad, and the good things are just the accessibility between bands and their music and an audience. The fact that you can go online selling music, listening to music, and it's sort of brought it to a level that's more manageable. I quite like the idea of the huge profits that the record labels made, and the vast amounts of money that are spent on PR. And I remember that our record label, which I won't mention, one of them, used to fly all their staff down the world first class, and they never even got deals on the flights. They just book them. The waste of money is just enormous. It's sort of greed. I think the greed has been taken out of the industry. So I think that the one element that hasn't is just ticket sales. On the highest level, where they get major artists, that their tickets get bought up by agencies and resold. Something needs to fix that. But essentially, I think the fact that you're doing things hands-on yourself, you're going to do a better job. You've only got yourself to answer for, so it's more satisfying, and it's less likely to go wrong. I quite enjoy it. It's because it's a complete job. It's not just writing a piece of a CD of music and giving it some bunch of people, say, right, okay, it's up to you guys now. Because essentially it isn't, it doesn't stop there, but that's where it begins. And I'm dedicated to, I do Back to Steel, that's years of work in the future to sort of support it and try and get it to different people. So, I do enjoy it.
What was the process for you in getting Back to Steel together and recording that? Did the songs happen first and then you assembled the musicians and the production team around it, or did you go into the studio with the intention of developing the material on the spot and then working on it from there?
I'm sort of more. I write the music. I sort of write all the guitar parts, so I know exactly what I'm going to do, and I have pretty well a good idea of the arrangement, and then everybody that's involved in the recording, I just play it to them, and I don't want to come up with their parts. I just want to see what they think and how they interpret it, and pretty well all the time it's great, because they've got a fresh approach, and it's part of their gig. And if you're a bass player, you want to come up with your own bass part because you want to inject some of your own personality into the music, and it's a grey area where you're not quite writing music, but yet you are, and that's what I did in Tull for 43 years. I wrote all the guitar parts. I wrote little bits of ideas came into the music from everybody, but that was sort of part of what we did. But essentially, there's a huge amount of preparation. So when I go in the studio, I'm pretty well 90% there, and I know it's going to work. I'm confident it's going to work, and normally we'll do 3-4 tracks a day. I mean, I do a lot at home, pre-production and post-production, but actually in the big studio, 2-3 days. Okay. Well, I've done 8 tracks for a new CD for next year, and it took us 2 days in the studio. So
it seems to me, or I've always assumed, based on having listened to your music for so long, that you must be a pretty disciplined composer. Do you, when you do come up with ideas for songs, and I'm sure it varies, but do you attempt to do it on any sort of a schedule? Do you have a space and a time where you seclude yourself and open yourself up to ideas, or is it a situation where you just grab what you can when it pops into your head and then develop it when you have the moment?
Yeah, well, I go in the studio. I mean, sometimes I'll just be jamming in the studio. Maybe to somebody else's record, I'm just playing, trying out a guitar, just playing for a bit of fun. And something will come out and go, oh, that could be a good riff. And it's a little cassette player, and I put all the ideas on. But mostly I'll get up in the morning, go in the studio and to write. And again, I'll just work on an idea. And then when I think I've got to the point where I need to sort of step away from it, it's all on a cassette player, like an old cassette player. And then I might move on and write another bit of music and put those ideas down. And then the next day, maybe 2-3 days down the line, I'll listen to everything I've come up with and sort of filter out the better ideas and develop them. So it's never, I've never written, well, maybe I have, but normally the music comes out over a period of a month, maybe, of just sort of jotting ideas down, developing them, maybe scrapping them if I don't like where it's going. There's no rules, but I spend a lot of time developing it, and I just think, that particularly with riffs and sequences, chord sequences, that there's so many little nuances, little places you can go. So I try and make sure that I've gone to every different corner before I know when to actually print it and say, right, that's it, that's the song, and it's going to stay that way.
Is there anybody that you rely on as a sounding board? Somebody that when you do come up with a song idea or you do finish a mix that you will play it to and say, tell me honestly, what do you think? Who do you lean on?
Well, I have to say that it's just me, and the problem with most people is if you ask them what they think, that they're highly unlikely to say it's rubbish. They're highly unlikely to sit and listen to like a week of your work and go, you know what, that isn't good enough. So it's hard to get a very, very honest opinion, and maybe because I've been doing it for so many years, I've got an instinct for when something's right and when it's wrong. But I'm learning, that every time I do an album, I think I'm writing better. I'm more focused. It's more accessible musically to people. It's more listenable, I hope. And then I'm working hard on doing my lyrics, getting them to improve. So I'm a beginner in many ways, but I think that's a good place to be, because when you're at the beginning of a learning curve, you're fresh and you're keen and you're hungry, and it probably shows in what you're doing. So I haven't been writing music for 50 years. I've been writing music seriously for maybe 10 years, and so I'm still a youngster in those terms.
It's hard work, isn't it? I think maybe people don't realize, they hear about you or somebody else of your stature who is, part of a huge band for decades, and now they're out on their own, and they assume that the lifestyle must be, a very frivolous one or a very, very cushioned one. And I think maybe people don't always understand how difficult it is to be on the road, or how difficult it is to discipline yourself to run a business the way that you're obliged to do. and just keep the product out there and promote it and do interviews and go on the road and leave your family. It's not necessarily an easy lifestyle, is it?
No, I mean, people see the cream on the cake. And the cream on the cake is the gig, and that's payback. That's when you get 2 hours of sheer pleasure, and that's our reward for everything that goes into it before that. But it's never tedious, and as I said earlier, we make travel fun. Like right now, we're in an Airbnb. We had a couple of days off, so we're in an Airbnb in the hills above LA. It's pretty nice. We've got something cool. But my wife is on the road because she works with me. Nothing's a chore, and I love writing. When I wake up in the morning, sometimes I'll make a cup of coffee, and it's 7:30 or 7 o'clock. I go straight in the studio, and it's not because I need to. It's because I'm awake. The phone's not ringing. Wow, I'm going to go play my guitar, and it's what I do, and it's my hobby, it's my job, it's my pleasure, it's my sport. It's such a way of life, and there's no part of it. I think maybe financial stress is the worst, especially because we're now an emerging band, so we're sort of building up an audience, building up a following, and so it's tough financially because obviously you have to front all these big tours and huge outlay. That's stressful, but the rest is just I love it.
Well, we really do appreciate your career and your creativity, and we appreciate the fact that you're still out there doing it. I'm really looking forward to that show on October 12th. And Back to Steel is a wonderful album. For anybody who doesn't already have a copy, definitely get it. It's available at martinbarre.com. It's also available iTunes, Spotify, everywhere you get your music these days, it's available. And Mr. Barre, I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate your time.
Oh, you're very welcome, Scott. Thank you. Thanks for giving me the time to talk.
Absolutely. It's a privilege. And travel safe. Take care of yourself.
Yeah, we will. Thanks so much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
And there you have it, the legendary Martin Barre. Really nice guy. It was so great to talk to him. Everything you need to know about Martin Barre, you can find at his website, martinbarre.com. Barre, of course, is spelled Barre. He's going to be at the Bolton Center in Bayshore on October 12th. His new album, Back to Steel, is available pretty much anywhere you can download music or buy CDs, if you can still find one of those places. And once again, my name is Scott Kukler. This is Fluxedo Junction. Thanks for joining us.